Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of Red Shadow's favorite games, Final Fantasy VII. Part 1, which I did a couple days ago, basically I showed off my collection of Final Fantasy VII games and pretty much all of my Final Fantasy games. And in this part 2, I just wanted to talk about how I came to be introduced to Final Fantasy VII, and my experiences with it back in those first few years and over the last 15, 16, 17 years, and what the game means to me now. And I know I won't be able to fully describe why it's my favorite game of all time, but I'd like to at least try to maybe relate some of that to you. But first, let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back into the past. At the time that Final Fantasy VII came out, which I don't even remember the exact date. I'm wanting to say it was sometime in late 2007. And I believe I got the game sometime within a couple months after it came out. But prior to Final Fantasy VII, I had only had 2 experiences with role-playing games. Video game role-playing games, RPGs. And that was Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, and Chrono Trigger, both being Squaresoft games. So there was at least a slight bit of familiarity there with how they did games as far as RPGs were concerned. And those are a couple of great RPGs for sure. But I was never that good at them. I was able to complete Super Mario RPG, although I probably had the aid of a Game Genie. Chrono Trigger I never could complete. In fact, I still, to this day, have not. I require the cheat code devices and RPGs, especially Super Nintendo into PlayStation 1 era. They just don't agree with one another very much. It's really hard to find perfect codes to make sure that you won't die in a game like Final Fantasy VII. But anyway, those were my 2 experiences with RPGs prior to the release of Final Fantasy VII, which had a marketing blitz unlike any other before it. A lot of money was spent by Square to get this game on television, in magazines, whether they were gaming related or not. They went all out to have a presence in the market at a time when gaming was starting to appeal to a demographic that wasn't, the younger kids. So they definitely took it upon themselves to throw Final Fantasy VII out everywhere you could imagine. And I remember seeing it. I saw Final Fantasy VII ads in all the gaming magazines, occasionally in just I would probably guess stuff like Entertainment Weekly and Newsweek and whatnot. I don't remember for sure, but we're talking about publications like that. I saw posters. I saw them especially in stores, gaming stores, retail stores, and then there were commercials on TV. I had cable at that time, so I was watching anything from USA to MTV, and I was seeing commercials for Final Fantasy VII everywhere you could imagine, and it looked interesting, but I guess there was a stigma around me about RPGs. I only had a couple of RPG experiences. And while they were good experiences, I wasn't committed, to becoming some sort of an RPG nut. Not that I am now, but I definitely value and respect and appreciate RPGs a lot more nowadays than I used to. So, the story I'm fond to tell is of the day that I went to the mall in Missoula, Montana, when I lived there. I went to the mall. I was pretty sure I was flying solo that day. None of my buddies were with me. And I went to Software Etc. store, which is basically now has been absorbed by GameStop. They were kind of like a sister store to GameStop back then. and that was what we had in our mall. And they were the video game store that I used to go to and hang out at. And I walked in, and when you'd walk into the store, on the right-hand side and in front of you began all the display cases for the different consoles, and on the wall, all the new releases. And then to the left, as you walked in, was the counter with the register and more displays. And on this particular day, when I walked in there, they had a television. Now, we're not talking like a demo station like you see a lot of stores have today, where it's all glammed out for, oh, it's Nintendo, it's Sony, it's Microsoft, and there's their console with pre-installed games. This was just pretty much a regular CRT television, probably about a 19 or 20 inch television size, and plugged up to it was a PlayStation 1, and on the screen in front of the guy who was playing the demo was Final Fantasy VII. Now, I don't know in that case if it was, like a demo disc like this, or they had actually popped the game itself in, but these people were playing some of the beginning elements of the game. And I should warn now, I was going to say this earlier, but I haven't hit upon anything yet. There's a very good chance there's going to be some spoilers in this, despite the fact that it's a game that's 16, 17 years old, 1997, so it's going on about 17 years old now. There's going to be spoilers in this video for this game, so if you have not played it but would like to, you may want to shut her down right now, because I'm going to spoil at least a few things in the game before I'm done. So anyway, the beginning of the game has you as Cloud joining up with this group. Well, not joining up, he's basically hired by and being paid to do work for this group called Avalanche. And you're going into the Mako reactors in Midgar, and you're going to blow them up and make a statement and, fight the power. And it was near the crescendo of that opening battle, when they actually go in and start it up, and then they have to hightail it out of there. I saw these kids playing. Like, that's what I remember when I saw it. At that point, I didn't know what in the world I was looking at. I had a feeling it was Final Fantasy VII. That was all that I knew. So, as I was prone to do back then, I went to the stacks, I went to the shelves, and was looking at everything from PC games to PlayStation games, and a little bit of everything, and probably 10 or 15 minutes of looking around. I was bored, and I didn't have any money, nor did I have any intention to buy anything, but I just wanted to browse. As I was on my way out of the store, feeling kind of nervous, because I just wandered around in there without spending any money, but I happened to notice out of the corner of my eye, those guys that were playing the Final Fantasy VII demo were gone. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll go take a look at it. And I walked up, and I took control, and I'm running Cloud around. And like I said, those kids had just got done blowing up the reactor and escaping from the facility. And then they decided to leave, so I had to take Cloud to the rendezvous point, which was, I believe, on a train, or at the train station. They all get on the train, and then they sit down and they talk about what just happened, and they have an interesting conversation. I think the dialogue in Final Fantasy VII is great. It's fine. It's definitely serviceable. It may not blow you away. It's not Shakespeare or anything like that. But I, for some reason, was just hooked. Immediately picking up a controller and making people talk to each other. And I was like, this is just very engrossing right now. And they had their little conversation, and Cloud was talking to the character known as Barrett, who I probably don't have something right here right now to show off, but I always named him in my game Jax, because he reminded me of Jax from Mortal Kombat. I know other people like to call him Mr. T, just silly names, but because in the game you can name your characters. I didn't use any of the original names of any of the characters. I gave them all, custom names for my playthrough. But anyway, Cloud is talking to Barrett and gets a little heated, and the moment I will always remember, like when I just said, okay, it went from when I walked into the store, Final Fantasy VII, whatever, to pick up the controller and like, this is really intriguing. And then Barrett goes and says one little old word, and I was like, I must have this game. And what was that word? The word was shit. I'm standing there in a store, in the mall, with people all around, a clerk right behind the counter, just aside from me. And it's not even spoken, it's just text dialogue. And he said, shit. That word came up on the screen, and I was like, I looked around, and it was almost like on the inside I was giggling a little bit, like I'd just done something really naughty and gotten away with it right in front of everybody. It was a little embarrassing, but it was a little thrilling at the same time. Stupid probably, but that was the moment when I was like, gosh, I really got to get this game. I have to know. For me, that was the first time a video game had ever had anything crude, let alone profane. So I played the rest of that part where they get off the train and then they group up at the bar that Barrett owned or whatever. And a little bit more dialogue happened, and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to play any more of this because I want to get this, I want to take it home, and I want to play it. So sometime shortly thereafter, I picked up Final Fantasy VII and began that epic journey. And it's an epic journey in a lot of ways. For me, it was epic in scope, in character development, in the crazy, convoluted story that is really hard to explain. I wouldn't even try to begin to explain it here. But it was just epic in length because it's a long game. It takes hours and hours and hours to go all the way through, and that's even if you don't give every little side quest and side mission a chance, like to actually give it time. Chocobo racing is something that comes to mind because you have to do the chocobo breeding and racing in order to get the right kind of chocobo to take you to this one part on the map where you can get the best materia summon, which I've never done in my own games because I did not have the patience to plod through all of that chocobo racing and breeding. I still don't think I would have the patience nowadays, but if I were to sit down again at some point in the near future, I'd feel like I have to get the experience out of it that this game will offer. I have to say my brother was a bit of a crutch for me in a lot of those regards, jumping ahead, but favorite game of all time? Never beat it. Yet another game in this series that I have not actually completed. I have been to the final battle, like literally the final stage of the battle. Cloud and Sephiroth facing off. Sephiroth's weird, bizarre form near the end. And then I get my ass handed to me and I can't beat it, even if I'm using cheat codes or a cheat code device like a Game Shark. But my brother has beat the game a few times, or at least at that time, around 1999. So I got to see him beat it, and I got to see the ending of the game that way. I've just never had the satisfaction of completing it myself. But anyway, I got the game. I sat down. I was in awe. I was playing it at home as soon as I get home from work. I was playing it at a friend's house. I had a friend named Eric. And he had several friends who used to come over and do Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and other pen and paper role-playing games. And once they invited me to come over, and I said, that's fine, I'll come over if you don't mind if I bring my PlayStation and hook it up to your TV and keep playing my Final Fantasy VII game. And he's like, yeah, that's fine, come on over. Well, by the end of that night, more people had been pulled away from their D&D game and were watching me play this. And that particular night was the night that the moment of this game happened. Whether people love it or hate it, whether people think it's overblown, whether people still complain to this day that it's been 17 years later, it's not a spoiler anymore. But one of the most shocking moments in video game history, you'll see it on a ton of people's lists, and it was an emotionally impactful moment to me. But as the game, here comes spoilers, as the game is taking you along through this journey as Cloud, and you've been introduced to these other characters, you've been introduced to a couple of female characters that were basically in the running for love interest, if you want to call it that. And as far as the gameplay is concerned, it all leads up to like this really nice, charming date scenario that you get to go on with depending on your actions and reactions to the few characters that are eligible to go on the date with you. Well, for me, it was always Aerith. It was always the flower girl, the flower selling lady named Aerith who you meet in the beginning of the game, and not Tifa, the one who is suggested to have had more of a relationship with Cloud when he was younger, like a friendship kind of thing or whatever. But I never really liked the idea of Cloud and Tifa. It was always about Aerith. And then in this epic, brutal, emotional scene, Sephiroth, the antagonist of the game, plunges his blade directly into Aerith and kills her right in the middle of the game. She'd been an integral part of your party, an integral part of the story. I myself had personally, as a gamer, felt feelings for this character, this virtual character that did not exist. And then she gets slaughtered and falls by the way, and right in the middle of the game. But never seen anything like that in a game before. And maybe that's where it holds up so well for a lot of people, with just the unpredictability of that happening. Back then, games had not really pushed in that kind of a direction before. Nowadays it happens a lot, but you still see games that are loaded with kind of those twists, and they still have an effect on people, like, say, A Last of Us. But that moment was a big one. That may be one of the biggest reasons why I like to replay the game, is just for that time that you get with Aerith again before she's gone. Anyway, I played the game, got as close to the end as I mentioned a few times over the years. I've played it almost all the way to the end. I've had a lot of restarts of the game, both on the PlayStation 1, and now I own a PC version. Here's another fun little story on that. When the PC version of Final Fantasy VII was being released like 2 years ago, there was an article online, and it said, it's available now, go download it, here's the links. You went to the thing, there it was like, it's $11.99 or something like that. The PC version, I think they did a little something with the music, which I'm going to talk about here shortly. But they also added achievements, whatever. And they added the ability to toggle your hit points and magic points and all that kind of stuff. So it's basically like a built-in cheat code device. And that was like a big 2 thumbs up for me. So the only downer I have now is that to play it, it's got to be on the 20-inch monitor instead of my 46-inch TV. But anyway, I'm skirting around the story. The website said, here it is, come download it. I paid the $11.99, downloaded the key for it, I believe, something like that, and then was ready to go like install it on the computer, and all of a sudden it wouldn't work. And all of a sudden the article that was in was gone, and all of a sudden it came out that they had released it like a day or two earlier than they were supposed to, and they were going to have to sort out this big old mess. Well, I'll hand it to Square for this. Everybody who got linked to it and bought the copy early that was then suddenly made unavailable to us got to download it when it was supposed to be out for free. As in, they refunded us our money but gave us the game anywhere. I was like, that's freaking awesome. So now I've got, you know, my PS1 copy, but I also have my PC copy. And I also want to get someday the actual PC boxed version that came out around the same time as this. In fact, there's a couple different ones, I believe, in different size boxes. So the collector in me wants to get them all. When that happens, who knows? If it'll happen, who knows? Because they may be quite expensive. But now like I said, I have my game, I have my PC version, I have my soundtrack that I showed in the previous video. One of the most important things to me about this game is the music. There is no better video game soundtrack out there in all of gaming, in my humble opinion. Final Fantasy VII, the music from it, it just blows me away. There are a lot of similar songs and melodies in all the Final Fantasy games, but in particular, and I've listened to, you know, music from 8 and 9 and 6, they're all really, really good. They're all done by Nobuo Uematsu. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, because the guy's a freaking genius, and he's done many, many, many soundtracks over the years for different video games. But this one is the one that I love the most. I showed this off in the previous video, but this soundtrack and all the songs off of it, they just take me away, man. They just take me away to another world. I actually have a few select tracks from that on my MP3 player, and when they pop up in the middle of rock and pop and rap music, it feels just as seamless and natural as anything else in my playlist. The music, like I said, I just can't stress how important music is in video games, and it is, for Final Fantasy VII, just a driving factor for me as to why it's so memorable. And that's the thing. I guess that's the best way to say, why is this game so important to me? Why is it my favorite game of all time? It's just, there's so many great memories attached to it. Memories from the storylines and the characters and the passing of characters, very important, very shocking. But also the memories of the times when it came out and the times when I've played it over the years. They're usually associated with good memories from that particular time, but sometimes they also bring me out of whatever bad memories there are. If I'm down and depressed or whatever, I think about Final Fantasy VII and it just brightens my day. I don't know, maybe it just sounds incredibly cheesy. Maybe it just sounds like I can't figure out what to say. That's pretty much right. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say about a lot of these games as to why I love them so much. Final Fantasy VII is that thing in this world that I could not live without. Sad, too, because so many other of my favorite things have been so much more accessible to me over the years. And Final Fantasy VII, maybe it's because of the length of the game, how many hours you have to pour into it. It's something I just haven't touched in a while, but doing this video has definitely made me want to sit down and play it. Maybe it's about time I check out that PC version and see if I can get all the way through it. Who knows? If I do, I'll probably say something about it in a future video, in a vlog or something like that. But that's all I can really think about right now, so I guess that's where this series is finally going to come to an end. My thoughts on Final Fantasy VII, my favorite game, absolute favorite game of all time. So I hope you've all enjoyed watching this series. As I said before, this wraps up the series unless some new game that I haven't played yet rises to the occasion. I will certainly add a new video up at that point. But for right now, consider this one done, which is exciting for me because it loosens my schedule up a little bit for doing other videos. Once again, starting on my X-Files watch through, and as well as the rest of the TV shows list. I'm going to do the Red Shadow's favorite movies, probably some other favorites type series. But anyway, you'll see that in the future if you stick around. And I do appreciate those of you who have stuck around, who check out my videos regardless of whether they're the gaming ones or the vlogs. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. And I think I'm done now because it's like midnight and I'm tired, and yet I don't want to go to bed. I've got a lot of YouTube to catch up on. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next series. And yeah.